Hey friends, this is Whiskey and Whit. I'm Whitney, and today's video is going to be a ton of heart decor inspiration perfect for Valentine's Day, so stay tuned. I don't know about you, but this year Valentine's Day snuck up on me, and so I am hurrying to get some stuff done before February 14th. What I also love about heart decor is that you could use it year-round, especially if you use grays and whites to go with your Valentine's Day decor, but then you can use it for other seasons as well.
First, let's make this Valentine's Day buffalo check neutral sign. So this starts with this Happy Valentine's Day sign that they have every year at the Dollar Tree. And I removed the hanger as well as this burlap little piece on the front, and then I sanded down that area. Once everything was sanded down, I gave it 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint and also painted over the top of the burlap. Then I printed out this All of Me Loves All of You decal that I just created in Canva, traced the back with some pencil lead, and then I traced the letters over the top, and then I filled everything in with a black Sharpie. Then it was time to paint my black and white buffalo check. I like to paint the buffalo check myself, but you can also cover it with some buffalo check scrapbook paper. But if you're gonna go ahead and paint it, the first step is to do equal stripes vertically. And what I do is I just use some painter's tape and I use a little piece to space out everything. So then I took some black and white paint, mixed it together, and gave myself a gray. If you have gray paint, you can use that too. I just didn't have it on hand at the time. And I went through and painted all of the vertical stripes where it wasn't taped off. Once that was dry, I went through and removed all of the pieces of tape. Now you're gonna wanna put these to the side and don't discard them quite yet because you're gonna need them to finish off your buffalo check. Then repeat the same step horizontally, spacing out everything equally, and paint all of those lines gray as well. Now you're going to want to remember where that tape was initially, and if you don't remember, you can go through and mark with some X's just so you can put your tape right back. And then you're going to paint the remaining areas black. And basically what you're doing is you're telling the sign where the gray lines overlap so you can create those black squares. The last step was to glue on a burlap bow as well as my All of Me Loves All of You sign and add some more jute twine to be able to hang it up. This is a pretty simple process, but I absolutely love this sign, and while I use it for Valentine's Day, you could definitely use this for a just regular traditional farmhouse decor piece. These next hearts are also Dollar Tree items, and Dollar Tree actually this year has a lot more hearts than just these ones, but I did like this interesting shape. So I grabbed 3 of them, and they're actually ornaments, so I just removed the jute twine so it was easier to work with. I went through and stained the hearts so they had a dark underneath tone. And then I went through with just some chalk paint in pink, red, and white, all Waverly, and did a dry brush technique so the stain was peeking through. That's how I got the rustic Valentine's Day look. Once they were all dry, I just went through with some 100 grit sandpaper and roughed up the edges to really bring out that rustic, distressed look I was going for. Then to finish the white one, I just added a little bit of buffalo check ribbon, and also, friendly PSA, this was shot last year, so I am not pregnant again. This one I love. I have that up year round, and then these pink and red ones are a really great addition to any vignette I do for Valentine's Day. Another variation on the Dollar Tree wood hearts are these color your own ornaments, and what I did is I glued 2 of them together to make them thicker and make them into signs for your tiered trays or little vignettes. I did that by adding hot glue in between the 2, sticking them together, and then filling the holes with some wood filler. You can get this at any hardware store. I actually found this wood filler at Dollar Tree a couple years ago. I don't use a ton of it, so I still have some. After everything dried, I painted some white and some black. White to go with my overall farmhouse look and black to give it kind of a chalkboard look. After they were painted, I just cut out some cute little sayings with my Cricut and stuck them on. And these I do have as free cut files, so they will be linked on my blog, so check out the link in the description. These are also ones, again, I leave up well past Valentine's Day. You could also do the same thing with those hearts to make little conversation hearts. I used these that I found at Target last year, but you could definitely do these with those Dollar Tree ornaments. I just painted them some really fun pastel colors that I had on hand that looked similar to conversation heart colors. And then with my Cricut, I just used a sans serif font, went through and cut out some red vinyl with Be Mine, Text Me, and True Love to look like cute little conversation hearts. These are also really fun where you don't have to go over the top with Valentine's Day, but you can just kind of sprinkle them in to your farmhouse decor. Another idea is you could create Ray Dunn hearts. And so by painting them white and adding a decal with the free font, The Skinny, that's how I created the Ray Dunn look. I did XOXO. I have one that says Puppy Love. I have another one that just says Love on it. And we really like using these around the house. The next heart project is this fun door hanger. I really wanted to spice up our front hall closet, and so I used 3 of these kind of tinsel-y signs, a t-shirt, and 3 bandanas from Dollar Tree. Step 1 is to disassemble all of your hearts. So with these, if you haven't done it before, you can just snip one end and they come off really quite easily. And these are really great bases for DIYs. So once all 3 of them were cleared, I took my hearts and traced them onto the t-shirt. And the reason I did this, you could use scrap fabric. I just wanted to make sure that I had a good base to put my bandanas on because they are pretty thin. And so I figured you could see through it and I didn't think it would look that great. So these were just to give myself a base on the hearts before I covered it with the bandana. I went through with my glue gun and made sure that everything was kind of pulled taut around the front. And this is what it looked like when those were done. And then before hooking on my bandanas, I went through and just gave them a really quick iron. You could also use a steamer, but I didn't want the weird like seams on there. And then I followed the same process, just really pulling it taut around the edges so that you had a really nice outline of your heart. I did 2 in the buffalo check and then 1 in the traditional red with white hearts. Then my last step was to just take some jute twine and hook them up so that they would all hang nicely on my door. I just fed it through the kind of cage bar pieces on the back, and voila! This was really easy and cheap to put together, but I really like that it adds a little bit of traditional Valentine's Day flair to my front door area. Speaking of traditional Valentine's Day, I also love this pom-pom wreath that I created in the traditional red and white colors. You could do this in all red, all white. You can incorporate pink. You can really customize it. But for this, you're going to need some yarn in the colors of your choice and a Dollar Tree heart wreath form. So this process is really honestly soothing. It's really nice to do when you're sitting like watching a Netflix show, because I feel like that's all we do now, at least at our house. But what I do is I cut a piece of yarn and I put it in between my 2 fingers. And if you have a pom-pom maker, you can absolutely use that, but I don't, so I just use my fingers. You're gonna put the piece of yarn in between your pointer and middle finger, and then take some more yarn right from the spool and wrap it around your fingers. I ended up doing this 50 times to get a full pom-pom, but the more times you wrap, the fuller your pom-pom's gonna be. Once everything's wrapped around, I pulled it off my fingers, and you're going to have your piece of yarn wrapped around the outside of that kind of wrap around piece. And basically the goal here is to tie this tight because that's going to end up being the center of your pom-pom. Once it's tied tight, I would probably triple knot it. Then I went through with my scissors and cut all of the loops, and that's what's going to create your little pom-poms. The final step after cutting all the loops is to play around with it, kind of give them a little haircut and get it so that it is all rounded like so. Now I went through and made enough until I was able to fill out my wreath. So like I said, it's a really good kind of Netflix, hang out, watch a show, weekend project. And then I laid everything out, and once I was ready to go, I used those tails that I had to tie my pom-poms to the wreath. Now the one thing I wish I did was cut the pieces as I went, the little tails, instead of waiting till the end, but you know, it is what it is. Once everything was filled in, it was all full and ready to be hung. I just added a little bit of more yarn so that I could hang it up. So there's a lot of different ways you could use that wreath. Using that same pom-pom method, I used 4 fingers instead of 2 to create some larger pom-poms. So I just wrapped it around 4 fingers instead of 2. Once I was done with those larger pom-poms, I just hung some yarn across my mantle. I tied them on. And I do like tying them on versus like stringing them, because then you can move them so that when you have 2 strands like this, you can kind of slide them and figure out that it has the right placement. Once I had everything placed out and slid to where I wanted it, then I decided to add an additional layer. So I just took some Dollar Tree burlap ribbon in about 5-inch, 4-inch pieces, they don't have to be exact, and tied them along a piece of jute twine. Then I also filled in the openings with some red and white buffalo check ribbon and also some XO Valentine's Day ribbon. And it just made my boring mantle that looked kind of sad after Christmas nice and full. In our last project, I saved the easiest project for last. It is so easy, but it is really nice to kind of fill in some areas. So I grabbed some table scatter as well as these little craft jars from Dollar Tree, and I just dumped the table filler into the jar. I evenly dispersed it across 2 jars. And then I added my lid and some jute twine and called it a day. It's a nice way to add some color to your tiered tray and your regular farmhouse decor.
Thanks so much for watching. As always, be sure to leave me a comment and let me know what your favorite project was. And also, if you're new to my channel, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future Whiskey and Whit video. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!